everybody. I'm Kevin. Today I'll be talking about mixed methods research and why it's a valuable approach. Mixed methods combine both quantitative and qualitative research, and its goal is to try to get a more complete picture of a problem. So in this presentation, I'm going to explore the strengths of each method, then I'll look at the challenges of both methods, and lastly, I'll look at mixed methods in my own research, some of the philosophical underpinnings of that, and see how it could apply to my research of trying to support non-specialist PE teachers in increasing student physical literacy. So I'll start with looking at the strengths of both quantitative and qualitative. Quantitative research has a lot of strengths. Magiro points out that it gives clear, measurable data, making it easier to draw solid conclusions from. Lund adds that it's great for studying large groups, so the results can apply to more people. And Shan highlights how it helps spot patterns, and you can test certain ideas based on those patterns. On the other side, qualitative research brings a different kind of value. So O'Leary in the video said it gives deeper insight into people's experiences. Lund explains that it helps explore complex social issues by adding context by getting to know the subjects and talking to them. And Shan also notes that it's flexible as well. But there are limitations of both. On the quantitative side, it gives us numbers and data, but it lacks depth. So as O'Leary mentioned, you have to guard against the critique that's too thin. You don't really know what they're thinking. It also struggles to capture the social and cultural context behind the numbers, and it has a very rigid structure, so kind of hard to have as much maybe flexibility as the qualitative side. On the qualitative side, the limitations for those is subjectivity. So smaller sample sizes in qualitative, you're obviously going to be looking at less of a sample size, and it's going to be harder to apply those findings to a larger group, which again goes into limited generalization as well. They're also time consuming. You have to sit down with the subjects. You have to really try to get to know them. It's not just a quick survey that can be plugged into numbers. And so that's why mixed method research is so useful by using both of these approaches. When we combine both of them, we can get solid data on the quantitative side, and we can kind of look into insights on the qualitative side to get a little bit of both. Mixed method research offers a comprehensive way to explore complex issues by combining both qualitative as quantitative, as I mentioned before. So as Magiro explains, this combination helps the researchers to get a better and deeper understanding of the research problem. So by looking at the strengths of both methods, mixed methods provides a more balanced perspective by using the strengths of both methods, and that's from Magiro 2011. Qualitative data offers rich, detailed insights, while quantitative adds numerical evidence to support broader conclusions. This dual approach can also help with the data as well. So researchers can explore different aspects of a problem, and not only understanding what's happening, but also why it's happening as well. So why choose mixed methods? Well, a mixed methods research it helps us with both, as we mentioned, quantitative and qualitative. As Lund points out, by combining both methods, researchers will have a better or more well-rounded perspective. One other advantage is the ability to um, have a hypothesis through your qualitative data. So you can kind of get better details from those participants. And then it will test those hypotheses using quantitative data. So I'll talk briefly about how that kind of applies to my research, but it's nice to have both methods at once. Mixed methods also gives a more holistic view. So instead of just relying on numbers or just personal stories, it will bring both together at once, which is really important in places like education, where like human experiences um, and like raw data kind of come together to make decisions. So the philosophical underpinnings of the mixed method approach. Um, so Megiro touched on pragmatism um, and mentioned that it's all about finding practical solutions to a problem. So it kind of encourages using whatever method works best to answer research questions. And that's a great fit for me, like studying how to support non-specialist teachers in the gym. Another area by Shan is dialectical pluralism. So it values multiple viewpoints, not just one side or the other. And it's useful for understanding the diverse experiences of those non-specialist teachers by thinking about different perspectives that they would have in the classroom compared to being like teaching in the gym. So by applying both of these, it gives a more complete understanding of that type of educational challenge. All right, so my research, for those that don't know, I'm very curious into looking at how I can support non-specialist teachers in the gym. And I've kind of noticed a lot of times, it's been on the discussion forum, but I think it's a valid problem, is that I find especially when classroom teachers maybe only have one phys ed period or two phys ed periods to teach, they kind of use it as almost a prep, I've seen. And it doesn't benefit anybody in that situation. Oftentimes the kids are wilder if you're just doing dodgeball every day for a year. They're not as engaged. They're not learning anything about physical activity, I find. So I'm kind of looking at a way that I can support these non-specialist teachers so that the students in my school will have better physical literacy. So in saying all that, I'd be looking at a few different areas, both quantitative and qualitative, to do that. So I'd be trying to get surveys and questionnaires from non-specialist teachers to see like how their confidence levels like in the gym looks like, and like the physical literacy of the kids as well. I'd be trying to get questionnaires to kind of take up on that and see what I could uncover from those questionnaires. Pre and post assessment data. So I would try to evaluate students' physical literacy levels before and after specific teachers have them for that year. That would be quite difficult, I could see, but that would be an area of quantitative that I could use. And then statistical analysis. So looking at the correlation of the students in non-specialist teachers' phys ed classes compared to those in my class or my other specialist phys ed teachers classes. Or do we see a ton of differences between them, especially looking at things like sports teams, looking at which students maybe are more excited to join extracurriculars. In qualitative, I'd be looking at conducting interviews with non-specialist teachers to understand their experiences. Observations, I'd love to observe some of the PE lessons. Now that makes it tricky because I would assume that those teachers will probably try a little bit harder or do something different when I'm observing them. And reflective journals. So I'd love to have like teachers keep journals and try to be as honest as possible. That is the hardest part of this potential research subject, is trying to get as much honesty as possible. But that would be, in a perfect world, what I'd be looking at. All right, the downsides, time and resources. Tons of time would have to go into this to run a mixed method approach. I'd be looking at collecting data plus a bunch of interviews with my subjects, so it'd take a long time. There is a lot of data that would come in from a mixed method, from using both, a lot of information that I would have to decipher. And I think it would have a little bit of a burden on the participants. So teachers and students may experience like survey fatigue or feel overwhelmed by multiple data collection activities like through this mixed method approach. Right, and I wanted to end this video with like my favorite quote that I came across in the required videos and readings, and this was Dr. Patton from the Center of Research Quality. I really like this. So just to discover that the world isn't the way you thought it was isn't failure, it's knowledge. So I kind of like hearing that. It takes some of the pressure off to have the proper hypothesis going into my research method. And like I may go in with like preconceived notions of what I think I'll find, but even if I have a complete 180 on my research, it's still knowledge. That's not failure. So I thought that was a nice quote to end it with. And finally, my reference page. All right, thank you for listening, and I look forward to hearing your perspectives in the discussion forum. Thanks.